The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
While you're here, go ahead and sub up. Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Today, we will find out what's new in Green Bay with the Green Bay Packers. And I tell you what, this is probably going to be a very brief episode, one of the shortest ones I've ever done on this segment because this Packers team gets it. And they're one of the premier franchises in the National Football League for a reason. They run this thing the right way. Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf and company, they absolutely know how to run a franchise. And so the Packers, not going to be a lot of shakeups. It's just not. Frankly, it is very quiet in Green Bay this time of the year. And so don't expect a lot of things coming in or out of Green Bay. They actually had quite a few departures in this offseason, but just not a lot happening in Green Bay. When you're a good football team, and I say this all the time, when you're a good football team, you know who you are, you have an identity. You don't have to go searching for who you are. You know what you are as a team. You know what guys can help you, what guys can't. And so there's not a lot of running around scrambling trying to find free agents to come into your vicinity and your franchise to help you. Not necessary. You have a lot of young, talented players. They built this thing through the draft. Yeah, they'll go in and pluck a guy out of free agency every now and again, but for the most part, the Packers stay to themselves. They take care of their guys in-house. They bring in a lot of young guys as rookies, and they stockpile this team with young, talented, hungry football players. And so this is via YouTube subscriber X Packer X2. He got the Packers in there, and he's been trying for a while. Finally got the Packers up, and so we'll be talking about what's new in Green Bay. Of course, in order to get to what's new in Green Bay, we got to get rid of the old in Green Bay. But before we do that, let me handle a little bit of house cleaning. If you want your team or any team for that matter to be next on this program, the What's New In segment, simply be the first. That's the key. A lot of people want their team to be next, but they're not the first. To leave a comment at the bottom of this video stating next and the team that you want to see next up on the What's New In series. So with that taken care of, now let's get to out with the old with the Green Bay Packers. So as you know, in order to go out with the old, in with the new, I need not only the assistance of my big board behind me, but of course my handy dandy pointer. I've got both. I'm ready to talk Green Bay Packers football. And we start out with the old with the Packers. And like I said before, you look at this board, it's not a lot here. And of course, it's the mark of a good team. I say it all the time. We know the Packers are a perennial powerhouse in this league. And so you get what you get when you're talking Packers football. And so let's go out with the old. And you look at running back Cedric Benson. The Packers running back position has left a lot to be desired over the last 3 or 4 seasons. I thought that Aaron Rodgers made a comment last season in the offseason that kind of stirred the pot a little bit and kind of set the stage for what was to come in the 2012 season in terms of the Packers not being able to really run the football effectively. In the offseason last year, of course, he made the comment that, hey, we don't really need to run the football. I don't mind passing the ball on just about every down. Think we can handle ourselves with the passing game. And it was funny because as he made that statement the very next day on NFL Total Access, Greg Jennings was a guest, and he said, hey, I love Aaron, but we need to be able to run the football. And I think that's the attitude that the Packers have had over the last couple of years. We don't need the running game. The season that they won the Super Bowl, they didn't really run the ball all that efficiently during the season in terms of the regular season, but into the postseason, they really amped up that running game during that run to the Super Bowl. And so you thought maybe, just maybe, that would jumpstart a running game of some sort in Green Bay, but it didn't happen. And Cedric Benson was a Band-Aid on something that needed to be fixed. It needed surgery, essentially, did this running game in Green Bay. And I thought that they got desperate. Cedric Benson went down with an injury. They went out and got Ryan Grant. We'll talk about him in a second. But Cedric Benson is a guy that he's up there in age and he's a solid back. But at this point in his career, he's a 3 yards in a cloud of dust back. He's not going to elude anyone. He's not going to run anyone over. You block a play for 5 yards, Cedric Benson gets you 5 yards. And I thought that's what the Green Bay Packers running game was. They didn't block well. The running backs weren't special enough to make guys miss. You put those two things together, it's a recipe for disaster. Because, hey, Barry Sanders wasn't behind the best offensive line in the world in Detroit. But the guy could make people miss. And so there you had a lot of big runs in Detroit. You didn't have that kind of back in Green Bay. So if the offensive line wasn't blocking well in the run game, guess what? These guys weren't athletic enough, weren't explosive enough to make people miss and pick up yardage that wasn't there. No hidden yardage in this running game for the Green Bay Packers, and it was because of guys like Cedric Benson, who is no longer on your roster. And also, the next guy on the list, running back Ryan Grant. He was a Packer before this offseason. You guys let him go. He went to Washington. It did not work. He comes back to Green Bay. And you were looking for something. You were hoping to rekindle the magic that you guys once shared when this guy was a 1,000-yard rusher, did not fumble the football, tough in between the tackles. It wasn't there anymore. It just frankly wasn't there anymore. The magic was gone. And so he attributed to this anemic rush offense that the Packers put on the field in 2012. He's no longer on the roster as well. You look at wide receiver Greg Jennings. The writing was on the wall here. And the Packers would have loved to have had Greg Jennings back. But honestly, if you want my opinion, the Packers proved in 2012 that they don't need Greg Jennings. And I thought that he felt that the Packers had moved on from him. I think he felt a certain type of way. When he came back from that injury, guys had picked up the slack. James Jones was catching touchdown passes like his mind had gone bad. You had Randall Cobb just catching the football in every way imaginable. Everyone stepped up. Everyone took some part of the slack and filled the void that was left by Greg Jennings. And so Jordy Nelson was injured, but he was still productive. And you realize we don't need Greg Jennings. I mean, the Packers always seem to find hidden gems at the receiver position. And so when one guy goes down, someone else just steps up. And I felt like Randall Cobb making that transition from gadget guy to slot receiver to, hey, I can put this guy anywhere on the field, out wide, in the slot, doesn't matter, X, Y, Z. He can play them all. It made Greg Jennings expendable. And I think Jennings felt like, hey, these guys don't need me. I'm no longer the guy in Green Bay. I want to feel wanted again. I want to feel like I am the man again. And so even though Green Bay extended an offer to this guy, and I thought that I heard reports that the Packers offer was actually more than the Vikings offer, he didn't want to come back. He had already sold his house in Green Bay. He had already put it up for sale. And he had mentally already moved on from the Packers. He felt like, I just want to move on. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't feel like I'm wanted here. I'm not needed here anymore. And so he's now a Minnesota Viking. Did he have to go to Minnesota? That's the question you got to ask yourself. But hey, money talks. And the Vikings were willing to pay this guy not only to come over and play wide receiver for them, but to be the man. And I think that was the most important part, to be the man in Minnesota. And so we'll see what Greg Jennings will do. You got to see this guy twice a season. Let's see if he's as effective in Minnesota as he was for the Green Bay Packers. You look at Tom Crabtree, tight end, tattoo Tom. And he moved on to Tampa Bay. Look, blocking tight end doesn't do much for you in the passing game, even though he had about a 75, 80-yard reception for a touchdown last season. He's not a guy that gets a lot done in the passing game. He only had 8 receptions last season, so you're not going to miss the production you get from Tom Crabtree in the passing game. But he's a solid guy. I thought he's a little bit more athletic than the 8 receptions may lead you to believe. I think he actually has the potential to be a pass-catching threat in this league, and I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will use him in that capacity a little bit more than the Packers did. But He was more of a tight end you put in the game when you're going to a 3 tight end set. You're looking for extra beef out there to block. That was Tom Crabtree in a nutshell. He's gone. He's in Tampa Bay now. You look at safety Charles Woodson. Another guy that had a really stellar run in Green Bay. And when it was at his peak, he was winning Defensive Player of the Year. He was helping the Packers win the Super Bowl. He was poking out the football, boom, punching it out, picking off passes, taking them the distance. I mean, he did everything you could do at the cornerback / safety position for this Green Bay Packers team. He was one of those interchangeable parts. He could line up at linebacker, at safety, at corner. You didn't know where Charles Woodson was on the field, but wherever he was making plays. But that time ran out, and the Packers felt like this is a guy that is oft injured in Charles Woodson. And we have young guys that are playing really good football at the safety position. And I don't think that Charles Woodson can run with the younger guys in the league out wide at corner. So he was more relegated to safety duties, but he was always injured. They had some guys like MD Jennings come, and they had some other guys that they felt really good about come in and play some really confident football. And so a guy like Charles Woodson became, much like Greg Jennings, expendable. We don't need you anymore. We've found other guys to do what you do, but except they're younger and they come with a cheaper price tag. And so no more Charles Woodson. The run was great. You got a Super Bowl. This guy was a huge part of that. So the run was great in Green Bay. If he goes into the Hall of Fame, I don't know. Maybe he goes in as a Packer. I don't know. Because at heart, I think Charles Woodson is a Raider, but the run was so good in Green Bay, I'm not sure. There's definitely a debate as to whether he would go in as a Packer or as a Raider, but no more Charles Woodson in Green Bay either way. You get linebacker Desmond Bishop. Here's a linebacker that I thought maybe he should be back in Green Bay. Solid run defender. Can get a little bit of pressure when blitzing, but really not his forte per se. Just thought he was a tough, hard-nosed linebacker. Could do a little bit in the passing game as well, but his strength was stopping the run. And I thought that he did an adequate job of that. I thought the Packers weren't really in a position to just allow linebackers to leave. I thought that was one of those positions on their team that was needing depth. I thought they really lacked depth. They had injuries last season at linebacker, and it showed. It really showed. This defense was not up to par in 2012, and so it showed. It definitely showed. And I thought Desmond Bishop was a guy worth holding on to, if nothing else for depth along that linebacking corps. But you decided to part ways with him. As soon as he was able to get out of Green Bay, you let him go. He found work immediately. Guess where? In Minnesota. Go figure, right? So he's no longer on your football team. He's now a Minnesota Viking. So guess what? Even though he's not on your team, you'll still be seeing more than enough of Desmond Bishop. You look at linebacker Eric Walden. The Packers had something in mind when they got Eric Walden. They had envisioned this guy that could get to the quarterback. And I remember when I first saw Eric Walden and he really jumped off the screen at me, was that season finale game against the Chicago Bears. Packers needed this game to get into the postseason the year you won the Super Bowl. And this guy came up huge. I think he had like 2.5, 3 sacks in that game. He really was one of the difference makers in securing a very low-scoring game for the Packers en route to getting into the postseason and winning the Super Bowl. And I thought he played well on that run to the Super Bowl. And I thought, man, sky's the limit for this guy. And then Eric Walden simply did not get pressure on the quarterback thereafter. I mean, it was almost like he was allergic to getting pressure on the quarterback. He was solid in the run game, but even then, he wasn't the best at that either. And so I think the Packers said, hey, if you want to test the free agent market, go right ahead, be my guest. If no one else wants you, we'll take you back. But if you find a deal out there, hey, run with it. He found a deal in Indianapolis. That's where he is. No more Eric Walden in Green Bay. You look at linebacker Frank Zombo. Can you believe it? Here's a guy that was starting in the Super Bowl just 3 seasons ago. Mind-boggling. It's crazy that Frank Zombo was a key contributor on this football team in your Super Bowl season, and now he's been relegated to special teams duty only. Amazing. But that's what happens in the span of 2 seasons or so. Frank Zombo really didn't contribute to this team defensively at the linebacker position. And so you just figured, hey, we can find a guy that's more athletic, that can do exactly what you're doing for us, that might be able to help us in a pinch at the linebacker position too. So Frank Zombo is out. So you look at out with the old, and it's frankly not a lot here. It literally is out with the old. A lot of these guys are older. Cedric Benson, an older back. Ryan Grant, not that old, but in running back years, yeah, he's up there in age. Greg Jennings, no longer a spring chicken. Charles Woodson, he's a grandfather in NFL years. And so it is literally out with the old with the Packers. Not a lot here, but still, that's what good teams do. They get rid of guys before they become unproductive and dead weight. And so the Packers, they're shedding a little bit of dead weight here. We move on to end with the new one, as you can tell. There's not a lot here. In the end with the new category, we'll talk about that here in a second. Let's go in with the new with the Green Bay Packers. So we're in with the new with the Packers, and does it get any simpler than this? One guy, one person worthy of being in the in with the new category. But that's how the Packers run their show, okay? We don't need to go out and overpay for other teams' disregarded players or other teams' free agents. How about we keep our own guys in-house? How about we go out and spend our money on draft picks and things that matter, that'll make us a younger, hungrier, better football team? I can't argue with that. And there's one thing you can't do. You can't argue with results. And the Packers get results. So the only thing we have is tight end Matthew Mulligan coming over from St. Louis. You lose Tom Crabtree, a guy that was vital in your 3 tight end sets. Here's the guy that's going to replace him. It's really simple. You lose one blocking tight end, you pick up another. Simple math. -1 blocking tight end, add 1 blocking tight end, you break even. And that's what the Packers have done here. So that takes care of that portion of in with the new with the Green Bay Packers. How simple was that? They're not focusing in on this section here. What they have chosen to do and what they do annually is they don't focus in on free agents. That's not what the Packers do. This is the part of the board where they do their damage, where the Packers really load up on players and see what they can find in the draft, in the undrafted free agent rookie pool. So let's go on to draft picks. Packers were extremely busy in this draft, drafting 11 players. And the way the Packers do it, 8 or 9 of these guys will be on this roster come opening day. I mean, the Packers, they don't mess around. They don't draft guys to be projects down the road. They draft guys that they feel like can help them right away. And so let's get right into these picks. If you're looking for an extensive breakdown of this Packers draft, I will turn you to the 2013 NFL Draft wrap-up that I've done on every team, including the Green Bay Packers. If you're looking for a thorough breakdown of each and every single one of these players, turn to the 2013 NFL Draft wrap-up series. So we start with defensive end Dayton Jones. I love this guy. I love this pick. It fits what the Packers need on this team right now. I love it in the first round out of UCLA. Running back Eddie Lacy. I think the Packers got away with highway robbery, being able to wait till the second round and get a guy like Eddie Lacy. And then they actually went and complimented him later on in this draft, and I'll speak about it when we get there. Offensive tackle David Bakatahari in the 4th round. Offensive tackle J.C. Treader in the 4th round. Running back Jonathan Franklin in the 4th round. They got a double whammy. I think they got 2 of the better backs in this draft class, each complementing each other very well. One is a tough, bruising, downhill runner. The other is a cutter, a slasher. I mean, the Packers couldn't have done it any better, and it really meets a need. The one part of this offense that was lacking, they addressed it, and they addressed it in a big way. You look at cornerback Micah Hyde in the 5th round, defensive end Josh Boyd in the 6th round, linebacker Nate Palmer in the 6th round, wide receiver Charles Johnson, who I think has the ability to really break out for the Packers down the road in the 7th round, wide receiver Kevin Dorsey in the 7th round as well, linebacker Sam Barrington rounds out your draft in the 7th round. So 11 players here. A lot of these guys are going to make this roster. So we go from draft picks, guys who are probably going to make this roster, to those who are scratching and clawing, trying to get onto this Packers roster or someone's roster in the National Football League. I'm talking about the undrafted free agent rookies. So we run down this list quickly. Running back Jonathan Amoza out of Washington. Running back Angelo Peace out of Kansas State. Wide receiver Ty Walker out of Illinois State. wide receiver Miles White out of Louisiana Tech, wide receiver Cedric Cunningham out of Furman, wide receiver Alex Gillett out of Eastern Michigan, tight end Jake Stoneburner out of Ohio State, offensive guard Lane Taylor out of Oklahoma State, linebacker Andy Mabula out of Eastern Michigan, linebacker Jarvis Reed out of Prairie View A&M, defensive back David Fulton out of Chowan College, center Patrick Lewis out of Texas A&M, linebacker Dante Savage out of New Mexico State, and rounding out this rookie pool here, defensive tackle Gilbert Pena out of Mississippi. So that's all of your free agent rookies there. And the Packers have 14 of those guys, and also a total of 25 rookies will be on the field in practice, in training camp. So you look at this Packers team and a lot of young guys, and this is what the Packers do annually. They keep a fresh stock of young, hungry. That's the key. Hungry. You got to keep these players hungry for the Crimson Tide and keep these guys motivated. And that's what you got here. A lot of young, hungry guys who don't know any better. All they know is one speed, and that's full throttle, full speed ahead. And so Packers looking to upgrade this roster, going the young route, and wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 of these guys that are undrafted make this roster as well. So you go from in with the new with the Packers to any philosophical changes in Green Bay. So you look at the philosophical changes for the Green Bay Packers. What philosophical changes? What are you talking about? There's nothing to change here other than personnel and putting guys in positions to make plays. You look at this offense, this thing is in cruise control. You don't have to do anything. Just sit back, allow Mike McCarthy to dial up some plays, make adjustments, and let the best quarterback in the league go to work. I mean, there's really not a lot to tinker with on this offensive unit for the Green Bay Packers. The only thing you need to do is figure out, is Brian Bulaga going to make that transition from right tackle to left tackle smoothly? Is this offensive line going to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers a lot better in 2013 than they were in 2012? Can this running game get off the ground? The offensive line is key in that as well, because I didn't think this offensive line was adept at run blocking last season. They need to be a lot better in 2013. Now you got the backs. You got the horses back there to make this thing run and make it go in the backfield. Now you just got to get this offensive line to create some space, give them some lanes to run, and watch these guys work. So offensively, not a lot to talk about here, not a lot to chew on, because the Packers are explosive on offense every season. They got the best quarterback in the game. Now they got some running backs to run the football. Their receiving corps is always off the charts every year. Some of the names change. The production remains the same in Green Bay. So there's nothing to talk about offensively. The Packers, barring any catastrophic injuries, will be dangerous on offense, as they always are. Let's talk about the defensive side of football, however, because there's some things that need to be ironed out on this defense. And you look at Nick Perry, and he got injured last year, so you really don't know what you're getting out of Nick Perry. You put him on the edge last year, tried to get to the quarterback. I thought that he was a little bit slow. I didn't think he was that explosive. I didn't think he was explosive coming out of USC. Anyhow, I wasn't a big Nick Perry fan, but we'll see. Now, I think this is really going to be his first full season. Because of the injury last year, you really didn't get to see what Nick Perry was going to be in this defense. You definitely missed him, because I thought that Clay Matthews really struggled last year at times getting to the quarterback, because there wasn't anyone else to take any attention off of him. He was dealing with some injuries as well. And so you need to stay relatively healthy. This Packers defense was ravaged by injuries a season ago. We'll see if they can stay healthy. You need production on this defensive line, however, though. B.J. Raji has to step up. I think that you drafting a guy like Dayton Jones, who is going to come in and have an immediate impact on this defensive line, is definitely going to help you, because I thought that this defensive line was not stellar last season. Neither were these linebackers. And I thought, if not for your secondary being solid, if your secondary was trash, you would have really struggled, because there wasn't a lot of pressure. You weren't really stopping the run as you should. And so it showed in that playoff game against the 49ers. You couldn't stop the run. We saw Adrian Peterson run wild on you twice last season. This was not a good Packers defense a year ago. They did not stop the run effectively. They did a good job of bogging teams down in the red zone and not allowing them to get in the end zone. That saved them a lot of times from losing football games, because if teams were able to put it in the end zone against this Packers defense a season ago, this Packers team could have been in a lot of trouble. But the ability to bend but don't break in the red zone, I think, saved the Packers last season. They got to be better on defense. Let's face it. They need to be better. I think that defensive coordinator Dom Capers is going to continue to put guys in positions to make plays. I think the Packers showed that, hey, we need to address this defense. They went out and got a guy like Dayton Jones, and I think everything is going to fall into place with some of these guys coming back from injuries. I look for this Packers defense to be better. Everyone needs to take it upon themselves to get their job done. No hero football. Don't try and do somebody else's job. Do your job and do your job effectively. And I think this defense will be fine in 2013. And really, at the end of the day, we're arguing about apples and oranges, because whatever this defense does in Green Bay, it really doesn't matter. If you want to take that next step and win a Super Bowl, yeah, it does matter. But you're going to make it to the postseason off the strength of this offense. As long as this defense isn't giving up 34 points every week and they're not vomiting all over themselves, this offense is going to score 33, 37, 27, 29 points week in and week out. They're going to put up points. And so if this defense isn't anemic, which this Packers defense can be at times, as long as they're not doing that routinely, the Packers are going to win games, because this offense is just so explosive. So defense needs to be better. Offense just needs to continue what they have been doing, but except running the football more effectively. I expect to see all of that from the Packers and then some in 2013. And so that's what's new in Green Bay.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.